People ask me, why do you do it? What makes you want to fly and share it with the world? And if I answer them honestly, I would say, I don't know. It's just something you're born with. It's always been a part of me. I feel compelled to do it over and over again. The son of a naval aviator, my childhood is filled with memories on Navy bases. The sound, the smell, and the feel of an afterburner on takeoff. I always knew I wanted to be a pilot, but missed out on having that relationship. But what if you were given a chance at that? What if you were handed a gift of digitized 8mm and cockpit voice recordings?
Matt, actually, I'm going to take them down. Go ahead, Taylor. We're going to head out as soon as we get around. Roger, we'll take the victim. Sure.
Naval aviator, combat veteran, Top Gun graduate, and OG YouTuber. I knew I had to put this puzzle together and knew exactly who could help me do it. Commander Steve Cobra Queen, U.S. Navy retired, naval aviator, Top Gun instructor, Navy test pilot school alum, and the guy that talked my old man into signing up. Come along on this multi-part series as we dive into the Duck Chronicles and try to tell the stories that the OG YouTuber never got to.
CarQuals. Yes.
You were in the F9s?
VT-22. I was in VT-26 at Beeville. 24, 25, and 26 were at Beeville. 21, 22, and 23 were at Kingsville. See, he's taxiing with his canopy open. And if you watch, he'll take off the wet path.
Because you couldn't eject through it?
Yeah, you couldn't.
Doesn't seem safe. You appreciate a GoPro and
Oh, he's got his canopy closed. I wonder if he's...
stabilization. Oh, yeah, we do.
Yeah, see, he's got it. They've got their canopies closed. Maybe you do eject through. Yeah, they've all got them closed.
It looks like just solo. Doesn't look like there's any like
Yeah, solos. If you're going to CarQuals, it'll be a solo.
So this is where the rubber meets the road. If you don't pass this, you've come all this way, but no luck. You're not going any further if you don't pass these.
Oh yeah.
You got a lot riding on it.
Well, you gotta land on the carrier. You can't land on the carrier. You're not gonna make it.
You're not naval aviator.
They're practice landing is what they're doing. These are FCL people we call Field Carrier Landing Practice, FCLPs.
So are you aiming for a certain spot on the runway?
Well, they showed it earlier, the green data lights. You'll see them go by it here in a second. You see it? That was it.
Yeah.
And what that does, it projects a beam. There would be an orange ball, a beam, and then there's a row of green lights. And the ball will move, depending on where your airplane is. It'll move high if you're high. It'll show low if you're low. If you keep it dead center, you're on glide slope. You're trying to get a 3.5 degree glide slope so that you touch down at the same spot every time.
And how does that work? It's by line of sight, it's changing where that ball appears, or is it actually moving?
Well, on a ship, it's actually a series of what are called Fresnel lenses. It's a collimated beams of light that go out. And that's set up so that the center ball is lined up right there with the green atoms. Probably the field, it could be a mirror where they have a angle it at 3.5 degrees and put the mirror, then they move the light so many feet away from it so that that light shines into that mirror and angles up. Therefore, wherever you move, you can see it on the mirror. But they got away from that because it's not as accurate as the Fresnel lens are.
They're not.
Yeah, see it there? See the green lights?
They're not using the hook.
The what?
The tail hook?
No, they're doing touch and goes. It's all practice. There's an LSO out there grading everything they do.
Okay.
And all he's doing is writing down all their passes. You're high, you're low. Settle in the middle, climbed in close. I know what it is. The seats are not 0, 0. So while you're on the deck, you keep the canopy open. Once you start moving for takeoff, you close it because then you can get speed and you can get enough for the ejection seats to work. There's a C1.
Oh, okay. Oh, now we're out of the carrier. So once you, I guess, pass the practice on the runway, you get graded on that. You have to, I guess, make so many landings before they take you out to sea.
It's broke.
Oh, really?
Yeah. See, that's straight. That one's bent.
Huh.
Oh, they're still flying it. What the hell are they doing? The airplane's broken. Or maybe it was something else showing. I guess it's not.
No catapult for that guy, huh?
Yeah, they deck run them. They got enough wind over the deck. They don't, need a lot of weight. We did an experiment when I was at Pax River with NASA. We had what was called a QSRA, Quiet Short-Haul Research Aircraft. It was a twin turbopropped airplane, high wing like that they took the engines off and put 4 shoulder mounts. See, it looks like that thing's... Doesn't it look like that thing's...
That part right there?
Yeah.
Is it an extension of the wing, or it's broken? Yeah.
Oh, it's something sticking forward is what it is. There's a probe out there. Okay. It looks like... Okay. And so they put shoulder mounted, and the engines were upper surface blown. So the engines would exhaust over the wing, which would enhance the lift, which allowed you to bring it up much, much slower. And at the time, the experiment the Navy was doing was looking for alternatives to these expensive mega-billion-dollar carriers, and maybe going back to the small decks like World War II. And so they wanted to know if they could do STOL or some other type of things aboard. So that's why we took that airplane out, and we took it off to the Kitty Hawk, and we landed it unarrested and uncatapulted because it wasn't made for that. It was a NASA research aircraft. And we wound up, at the end of the experiment, we were able to land it on the angle, stop it, and then take off again without respot.
Wow.
All on the angle. So it was quite an experiment. It was a fun thing to do. 2 NASA guys and then 2 of us from the Navy flew the airplane. Yeah, see deck runs. See that white line? That's painted for deck runs.
Okay.
So the pilot lines up with that. That's like it's probably a training C1.
Do you remember your first one? Your first carrier landing?
Absolutely do.
You never forget it.
T2. It was actually on the USS Essex. And it was down in the Gulf of Mexico, right off of Pensacola. Took the TU-2 out. Did 4 traps, 4 cats. Went back and drank a lot of beer that day.
Celebrating?
Right.
Yeah. Now, is it different when the ship is moving versus being parked? Do they? Well, I guess you would never do.
You never do it when it's parked.
Yeah.
You always have to have wind over the deck.
Yeah, gotcha.
The only problem it gives you is a little lineup issue because you're on you're on a slight angle and the deck's moving like this. So you got the angle moving up. So you just gotta, it's just like slight cattywampus. You aim it a little bit to chase it. Bolter, bolter, bolter.
Yeah, he went a little too far there.
Let's try catching a wire this time.
Well, he's coming now. He's got a.
He's high.
Yeah.
He's high all the way.
He's got a high descent rate too.
Yeah, he's a little too afraid. He's not flying the ball.
Still looks high. Yeah.
Or is he just he's just doing touch and goes with his hookup? I can't tell. Yeah, I remember they tell you in the training when you're doing your first one, your T2s, they tell you, here's you got to practice you do all your CarQuals stuff, and they keep telling you, here's what's going to happen. They tell you all about the pattern when you come around, feet on the deck. When you catch the wire, you're going to go forward. Keep your feet on the deck. Do not put them on the brakes, and then follow the yellow shirt's directions. They said, because if you don't, the voice of God will come up and talk to you.
Yeah.
Yours truly came in, hit that deck, hit that wire, stopped, and started pulling me back. I put my feet on the brakes, and I sat there. And then I hear this, okay, 1, 2, 2, we've got you. Take your feet off the brakes.
Who is that? Is that the LSO or the?
No, Air Boss.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Is that 16 or 90? Yeah, 16. Is that? Do you know?
Well, yeah, we had the Essex, and the first one I did with T2s. And then we had.
What carrier that is.
I'm trying to remember who I did the F9 with. Because we actually went out and were aboard that ship for a while. Because remember, we had to go up in the bow. It was hot off the coast of Florida. We had to go up to the bow where we get some air.
Yeah, so is this Gulf of Mexico then, most likely? I'm guessing.
Well, I'm sure it's... Well, we flew out of Beeville and went all the way to Jacksonville on the East Coast.
Okay.
So we flew out of there to catch the carrier. Because we landed for fuel and took off at Louisiana and took off in a horrendous thunderstorm. And we got hit by lightning. I got shot through my wrist. I felt it. And then we did a 180, got back out of it and said, wow, take us around this thing. Let's not go through it.
Mm-hmm. So
First cat shot.
So you practice landings, and then
Yeah.
they teach you. This is the easy part, right? You just sit back and.
Well, you do 4, as I recall, it was 4 in the T2. And those are your first cat shots. Well, cat shots in those airplanes are easy because they're flying airplanes off the front end. Phantoms, you have to fly that airplane because it doesn't come off the front end real easy.
Really?
It's squats.
And
it has a
feel
very
it?
bad tendency to want to over-rotate.
Oh, really?
I over-rotated one time
Hmm.
and scared the pee out of me. So off the cat shot, man, I hit up like that. Wing, kicked my rudders, wing walked it, and it, because of the raw power of the Phantom, it powered its way out of it. But boy,
But you could have stalled it right there, huh?
oh man, it scared me to death.
And that ship is coming up behind you, right?
Well, you see it on the plat, and it happens so fast. You're still moving forward, but not very fast.
So did you just have to keep the nose down then?
What you do is, the Phantom, you have to put in aft stick to make it start its rotation, but you got to catch it. And if you're not paying attention, you don't catch it just right, it has a tendency to over-rotate because the center of gravity is very sensitive on that wing. And what they teach you to do is full aft stick, and then what I would always do is full aft stick, and I'd just bump my wrist a little bit forward so it wouldn't be totally full aft, and then I just nudge it as we get off the end of the cat.
And just kind of.
And
feel
one time
your way.
I nudged it probably a little too much.
Is that all just by feel?
Yeah.
It's probably different every time depending
Well,
on
by
the
that
conditions.
time you've got enough time in the airplane. You really you get a feel for it.
Yeah, that's.
See how that doesn't squat? It acts like it wants to wallow, but then it keeps going up. But the Phantom just sits there. And even though it's got a tremendous amount of power,
Yeah, slow. It's not happy. Low and slow. It just.
well, you can just power your way out of just about anything with the Phantom. If you ever think you're in trouble, you just straighten your left arm and it's going to take you out. So your dad had the same desires you did as far as taking pictures of things.
Well, I guess that's where I get it. When I was younger, I was really into photography. 35 millimeter. Of course, he did all that. He's got tons and tons of slides from everything from cruises to Disney World, and everything in between. So I've always been into photography. I dabbled a little bit. Well, I call it filmmaking. I'm not a filmmaker, but When video camcorders first came out in the late 80s, remember, and they were about this big, and they sat here on your shoulder?
Yeah.
And my friends and I would play around with those and make goofy videos and stuff. And then I started documenting everything, kid's birth, birthday, Christmas, all that, just like he did. So, yeah, when I first saw these guys putting GoPros in the cockpits of their Beechcraft Bonanza, I thought, aha, there it is right there. There's my calling.
Yeah.
I got to do it. It's fun. It's the flying's obviously fun. You have an idea in your head of what you want to do, and you set up the GoPros, but you really don't know what you got until you land and you download the footage.
Yeah.
And sometimes you're all smiles. You're like, look at that.
Yeah.
And other times the damn camera shut off, or the shot is crap, or whatever, and you're like, well, that didn't turn out so great.
Me a favor, hit that like button, leave a comment, tell me what you like, tell me what you don't like. Click that subscribe button, tell all your friends. Thanks for riding along. We'll see you next time.